I'm Greg Kesich, and I'm here in the Press Herald newsroom with Colin Woodard, reporter extraordinaire, and the author of American Nations. And if you haven't read American Nations, it's okay, because lots of people have read it, and they have all written articles and blog posts, and it's all over the world right now.
It will save you the trouble of actually reading it.
There's a version in Hungarian, I think.
That's another book, but yes,
okay,
coming up. Yeah.
It's coming
Republic
right up.
of Pirates.
So anyway, Colin, just briefly, what is the American Nations concept?
Right. I mean, it's a book about the importance of regionalism in understanding America's history and current political cleavages and most everything else. And the reason it's so important to, the important contribution that the book makes is that our way of understanding regions is entirely flawed, because we usually look at the regions, we take the country, we divide it up using state boundaries and call things a Northeast and a Midwest and a South and a West. And it's completely arbitrary. It misses the actual cultural fissures and differences that are behind the differences in political opinions and history and alliances between our true regions, which don't follow state boundaries. What they follow are the settlement, the original colonial clusters of Euro-American colonies along the eastern seaboard and the southern rim of what's now the United States, and the settlement patterns that they followed across the continent, laying down the sort of cultural DNA of different regions and assumptions that are often contradictory and at odds, and indeed have been throughout our history.
So what are some of the issues that you see divide on regional grounds?
Well, many issues. I mean, historically, the different regions that I identify were on different sides of everything from the English Civil War of the 1640s to the U.S. Civil War in the 1860s to the divides that you see if you look not at a red state, blue state map, but a red county, blue county map of almost any hotly contested presidential election in our history, you know, be it 1860 or 1916 or any of the recent ones. The colors may change. I mean, the regions may have swapped what parties that they're aligned with as their coalitions shift, but the same regional patterns you will see over and over again following the historic fault lines between the different settlement waves and patterns across the continent.
So we're in Yankeedom.
We are indeed.
And New York City is Midlands.
New York City is Dutch founded. It's its own thing around the Big Apple.
Okay.
New Netherland, yeah.
So how would you expect somebody from Yankeedom to differ from somebody from New York?
Yeah, well, the key thing is that this is not a book about individuals, but rather the dominant cultural ethos of the area. So we as individuals, you know, in any place you go, you'll find the entire spectrum of, you know, political and ideological beliefs of all sorts, you know, from anarchists all the way straight through to communists. You know, in the reddest of red counties and the bluest of blue counties, you'll find, you know, typically 40% of the population is going out and voting for the wrong side, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't what individuals think, but that we as individuals, what we encounter around us, that's in the air, all of these sort of assumptions, unchallenged assumptions that seem to have been around for centuries about the way society should work, or what freedom means, or what the American experiment's about, or how your local government should work. They're all there, and you may find them frustrating or you may love them, but they're facts that on the ground that never seem to quite change. Uh-huh. That's the dominant cultural ethos we're talking about. So to your question about Yankeedom, I mean, this is the greater New England cultural space. It was originally founded by the Puritans as a radical Calvinist religious utopia. And one of the things they were trying to do, they were a covenanted people, like, you know, in the Old Testament, who thought that they would be, you know, punished or rewarded as a group by God, and that they were tasked with creating a more perfect society right now here on earth. And they were going to do it through shared public institutions. So it was always, in essence, a social engineering project through government and public institutions from the beginning. And the emphasis was ensuring the community's freedom. And what that means, the implication is that you want the community to stay free, so you want to make sure that no individual has a chance to rise up and become a tyrant, you know, become an aristocrat or something lording over the community. So you're putting impediments on individual behavior, individual self-denial for the common good. What's more Yankee in New England than that? And it's encoded in our culture, and it is completely contradictory to the dominant ethos in other regions of the country.
Why does this still work? I mean, since the founding, there's been lots of movement. We're in a period right now of very rapid relocation. People are moving from the place they grew up, moving to other places for jobs. Why do you still see these patterns carry through?
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't think they would you? With the massive movement of people, and we all have cell phones and cable television, and there's the same box stores in every town, and there's a Starbucks in every corner. You'd think that these centuries-old cultural characteristics and echoes would disappear. Except the empirical evidence is the opposite is happening. That you see the characteristics and the conflicts between them growing rather than shrinking. So then the question is, how can that be? And one of the answers is a fellow named Bill Bishop in a book called The Big Sort was trying to tackle part of this question. He didn't have my nation's map. He was looking at counties and saying, I can't remember the statistics right now, but it was something like he realized that the number of landslide counties in our politics, a county where it went for one particular party all the time by 20 points or more, it had grown incredibly since the 1970s. I can remember it was like there were 30% of the county, the 3,000 counties in the states were landslide counties in 1970, and now it's 65%. He was like, why is that? And worked with demographers, and what they discovered by tracing where people went and to and fro and all that people who are moving around are self-selecting to the degree they can, are picking where they live to live among like-minded people in like-minded communities. They're shopping around for where they feel comfortable. So as people leave these regional cultures, remember individuals have a whole spectrum of opinions, they are self-sorting, because if you take his map and you overlay my nation's map, to a large degree they are self-sorting between these regional cultures without realizing it. And by doing so, they are increasing and enhancing the differences between the cultures. So that's one of the reasons afoot.
One last question. We've all heard of things going viral. You've actually gone viral. Your book is about 2 years old, right?
Go figure.
And it suddenly had this explosion all over the internet and through many other publications. What have you learned about how the media works and having been through this experience?
Yeah, just in the past week to see this happen. And suddenly it's absolutely everywhere, and people are talking about it and doing television and radio interviews, and major bloggers are dissecting it, and regional columnists are talking about their own city in the terms of the regions and regional cultures I described. And it's wonderful. How did it happen? From what I can tell, first I think the stage was laid for this by the government shutdown when Ted Cruz and the Tea Party caucus brought us close to the edge of default. People started writing about the strong regional character of the shutdown caucus, of the hardcore in the House of Representatives, that many of them were from states in certain regions. Well, if you take my map, it's even more profound, the differences. So people started talking about secession and regional divisions more and in a more serious way than they had even 6 months before. So that laid the stage. And then I happened to have an article out in an alumni magazine, and it had a color map with it of my regions, and people just started passing that map around like, look at this is amazing. I think it was because the map was in color, but and then it sort of started growing all over the place on Twitter and Facebook, and then some of the big sort of aggregator sites started mentioning it, and then a big blog in the Washington Post picked it up, and then suddenly all the newspapers grabbed it, and then I was getting the calls for interviews, and it just carried on from there. So it was sort of I think things being set up on one level and having a color map that is kind of one of those viral, shiny objects you need to have people click on it on the internet and social media.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it at that, and thank you for tuning in, and there you have it. If you want to go viral, color in your map.